There is a kind of man who is always about to change his life. Tomorrow, he will wake up early. Next week, he will start working seriously. Next month, he will fix his finances. When the right opportunity appears, he will become disciplined. When he feels ready, he will finally become the man he knows he could be. But tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes next year. And somehow, his real life never begins. From the outside, he may look like an adult. He has adult problems, adult expectations, and an adult body. But inside him, there is still a boy who believes responsibility can be delayed. People call him lazy, immature, or unmotivated. But the psychology of the man-child goes much deeper. He is not only avoiding work, he is avoiding the version of himself that reality would force him to become. Because growing up means choosing one path and losing the others. It means accepting that potential is not achievement. It means discovering that nobody is coming to rescue you. Today we are looking at the psychology of the man-child, the hidden fears behind his behavior, the traps that keep him stuck, and what finally separates a boy in a man's body from an actual adult. This video may be uncomfortable. You may recognize a friend, a partner, or yourself. And if part of you wants to dismiss everything you hear, pay attention. That reaction may be the first sign that this subject is closer than you think. The man-child is not always unintelligent. He can be creative, charming, and full of ambitious ideas. He often knows what he should do, but knowledge rarely becomes action. He collects plans instead of building a life. His identity is based on what he could become, not what he has done. Everything feels temporary: the job, the apartment, the relationship, and even the person he is today. He tells himself that this is not the real version of him. The real version is stronger, richer, and more focused. That man simply has not appeared yet. But what if there is no hidden superior version waiting underneath? What if the only man he can become is the one created by his daily choices? This is why the man-child protects his potential. Potential is perfect. It has never failed, been rejected, or tested. As long as he never fully tries, he can keep believing he would succeed if he truly wanted to. He never fails because he never fully enters the game. And as long as he stays outside, the fantasy survives. But reality does not reward fantasy. It rewards repeated action. The man-child wants extraordinary results, but feels insulted by the ordinary steps required to create them. He wants the result without the repetitive work, sacrifice, and difficult conversations behind it. He wants the reward without becoming the person capable of earning it. The gap between fantasy and reality creates shame, and the greater that shame becomes, the more desperately he needs to escape it. This leads to the first trap: emotional anesthesia. Entertainment is not the problem. Everyone needs rest. The problem is what it is being used to avoid. Games give him what real life often does not: clear goals, fast progress, and immediate rewards. In reality, progress is slow and often invisible, so the screen becomes more satisfying than reality. The same escape can appear through scrolling, pornography, alcohol, or gambling. These activities silence one painful question: what are you doing with your life? But when the screen goes dark, the question returns louder. He may mock people who are building careers and relationships, but underneath that judgment is often envy. They have entered their lives. He is still watching. The second trap appears in relationships. At first, he can be playful, spontaneous, and emotionally open. But emotional openness is not emotional responsibility. When the relationship becomes serious, the questions change. Where is this going? Can I rely on you? What happens when life becomes difficult? Suddenly, he feels trapped. Commitment feels like prison. Expectations feel like criticism. He begins focusing on his partner's flaws. Small imperfections become evidence that the relationship is wrong. He says the timing is bad, he needs space, or he is not ready. But the real problem is often not the partner. Serious intimacy exposes whether he can keep promises, control his impulses, and remain present when things stop being fun. The man-child wants to be loved without being depended on. He wants comfort without obligation. Over time, his partner becomes his parent. She manages the practical burden and listens to the same promises. Then he resents her for treating him like a child. But she treats him like a child because he refuses to function as an adult. Eventually, attraction dies. It is difficult to desire someone you are constantly raising. The third trap is the victim identity. The man-child usually has an explanation for why his life has not moved forward. His parents failed him. The economy is terrible. Society is unfair. Successful people were lucky. Some of these things may be true, but there is a difference between recognizing unfairness and using it to surrender control. The victim identity gives him one powerful reward: innocence. If the entire world is responsible for his life, then he never has to face the choices keeping him stuck. Nothing is his fault. But if nothing is his fault, nothing is within his power. This is how he gives away control while believing he is protecting his dignity. So where does this pattern begin? For some men, it begins with overprotection. Their parents removed every difficulty, so the child never learned that discomfort could be survived. For others, the opposite happened. They were forced to become responsible too early. Later, a hidden part of them says, "I already spent my childhood carrying weight. Now someone else should carry me." And for some, it begins with praise. They were called gifted, special, or destined for greatness. But nobody taught them how to tolerate being average at the beginning. They learned to love the identity of talent, but not the humiliation of practice. So when something becomes difficult, they quit. They would rather protect the fantasy of greatness than discover their real level. This is why criticism can feel unbearable. Honest feedback feels like an attack because it threatens the fantasy that he is already extraordinary. So he attacks, disappears, or promises dramatic change. After failure, he creates a new schedule and announces a new beginning. For several days, he feels transformed. But he is not building discipline, he is escaping shame through excitement. When the excitement fades, the old behavior returns. The man-child is not only addicted to comfort, he is addicted to new beginnings. He loves day 1 because day 1 is full of possibility. He hates day 40 because day 40 is repetitive and unimpressive. But day 40 is where adulthood is built. A child acts when he feels inspired. An adult can act when inspiration is gone. Growing up does not mean killing the child inside you. It means no longer allowing that child to run the entire house. The playful part of a man can create humor and imagination, but it cannot manage money, commitment, discipline, or long-term decisions. A healthy adult protects the inner child. The man-child obeys him, and there is a serious price for that obedience. At first, avoiding responsibility feels like freedom. No fixed path and no heavy commitment. But eventually, that freedom changes shape. You cannot leave because you lack money, skills, and consistency. The freedom you protected becomes a cage. This is the final contradiction. The man-child refuses to choose because he wants every possibility to remain open. But by refusing to choose, he eventually loses those possibilities. Time chooses for him. The body ages, relationships end, and opportunities move elsewhere. Potential expires when it is never turned into action. One day he may realize that he is no longer a young man preparing to begin. He is an older man explaining why he never did. Childhood can be extended psychologically. Time cannot be stopped physically. So what separates a man from a man-child? It is not money, age, or status. A man becomes an adult when he stops demanding that reality protect his ego. He accepts that he will sometimes be ordinary. He accepts that he will fail publicly. He accepts that every commitment closes other doors. He accepts that nobody owes him the life he imagined. Most importantly, he stops asking, "What do I feel like doing?" and begins asking, "What is mine to carry?" Maybe what is yours to carry is your health, your work, your promises, your mistakes, or your future. Responsibility rarely looks dramatic. Sometimes it is doing the work without praise, keeping a promise after the emotion disappears, and staying present during discomfort. These actions do not look heroic, but they are how a personality becomes solid. The man-child waits for confidence before acting. The adult understands that confidence is created through action. The man-child waits until he feels ready. The adult knows readiness often comes after beginning. The man-child protects the fantasy of who he could be. The adult accepts the painful process of discovering who he actually is. If you recognized yourself in this video, that does not mean you are permanently broken. Everyone sometimes wants to escape pressure or be taken care of. The danger begins when avoidance becomes an identity and years are spent waiting for a version of yourself that can only be created through choices you keep refusing to make. There may never be a perfect morning when you suddenly feel like an adult. Growing up often happens quietly. It happens the first time you do what needs to be done without waiting to feel inspired. It happens when you stop blaming the world long enough to notice what is still within your control. It happens when you understand that responsibility is not the punishment for being alive. Responsibility is proof that your life belongs to you. So ask yourself one honest question. Are you building your life, or are you only imagining the man you might become one day? Because one day becomes today, and today becomes another year. The child inside you will always ask for more time. Adulthood begins when you stop giving it to him. If this video made you recognize yourself or someone close to you, share your thoughts in the comments. And subscribe for more videos exploring the hidden psychology behind human behavior. Remember this: potential may show you who you could become, but responsibility decides who you actually become.